All right, Manish. So you're the founder and CEO of E2M, a full-service white label agency for agencies, and you have built a team of over 180 experts. I just want to repeat that just for everyone in the back, 180 person team. I got to ask you, Manish, when you started your agency about 10 years ago, was there a certain inflection point where it went from like just yourself to 1 to 2 and then exploded? Like, tell me a little bit about that inflection point in your business where you started to explode.
Yeah. So first of all, Mark, thank you for having me on the show. I'm very excited to speak with you today. And it's a long story. Originally my core background is in SEO. So originally I started E2M as an SEO agency. And eventually we started offering like other services, like you got into web design, e-commerce, content and all sort of services. Initially, we were working with both types of clients. One is like direct clients and agency clients. And over the time, when we started growing, we realized that okay, let's try to be focused towards agencies. And I think I speak about it a lot that as a business owner, you really want to see your position in the ecosystem, right? So I think I identified my position into this ecosystem in a very strong way where I have a lot of experience in like marketing, branding, building an operation, hiring, training people, building a great culture. So that expertise I bring, and I'm like, okay, there are so many agencies in the States and other part of the world. They really don't want to go through all this pain, like, operations, hiring, firing, vetting pain. They still want to grow. And I'm like, that's what my core expertise is. And, we have a headquarters over here in India. And I also lived in the States. So I kind of like become a liaison where I filled that gap that, okay, bringing agencies as a clients on board who are having a bandwidth or capacity issues. They really want to scale, but they don't want to go through all this hiring, firing, and operations pain. And then we have a team here who is like vetted team, highly experienced, ready to get on board with our agency to take on the projects and help them scale. So I think we found a sweet spot where we are just decided that, okay, let's just work for agencies and solve the very specific problem for agency owners. So essentially we pivoted and our core mission right now is like to help agencies solve bandwidth and capacity problems and still like, without increasing their overhead cost and, with increased profit margins. So that's how everything started. And eventually we got into this.
Well, so I want to lean into that just a little bit. I run a podcast agency and it's tough. You bring on more clients, It means more processes, more automations, more team members, more subcontractors, et cetera. So I get that problem. Scaling, not simple. We'll talk a little bit about AI here in a minute and how that solves some of those problems. But here's what I'm interested in, Manish. I've worked with a lot of people overseas. India included. I've worked with people in India, which is your native country, right? A lot of freelancers doing one-on-one work, solo work. You have 180 people, so you could go on vacation. You could go to the Bahamas, baby. Go to the Bahamas with your partner, your spouse, your dog, your cat, whatever you want to go with, and you're still making money. I was off in Colorado in North Carolina this past week, and I got an email. You just got paid $1,500. I wasn't doing anything, so I like that. I think that's what most people want. Was there an inflection point? You said you had history in web design. How did you go from doing one-on-one stuff to actually hiring team members? How did you make that change?
I think, the first thing, when you want to really scale and grow is you have to shift the mindset, right? I think a lot of times what we do is, we fall in love with our job, day-to-day job. And we get into that, trap where it's very hard for us to think outside of that. So I think the first thing you have to do is, the framework which I learned over the time is like, when you really want to scale, so obviously the scaling won't happen without hiring people and without building a team, right? So the framework which worked really well for me is, see, there is always someone out who love to do what you hate to do, right?
Sure.
You have to use this framework. it doesn't mean that, you hate to do certain things. It's just you really want to work on something more important and which help you scale your agency business. So as an agency owners, let's say, you are doing a design or development by yourself, or maybe a project management, right? But you don't really enjoy doing it. You feel like, okay, I really want to spend time on bringing new clients, growing my agency business. So then you really have to, but there is someone always out who love to do project management job. So that creates a win. So as long as you are creating a win-win, when you're passing your responsibility, it will help you to scale. And now when you keep growing, you want to pass that will. Now, once the project manager becomes busy, now you want to take on new responsibility and pass on another responsibility, and you keep going in that circle, right?
You continuously evolve your own skill set. The problem here is the profit margins. That's when I talk to people about this, the first thing they say, hey, Mark, I don't want to give away 60% of my profit.
It's kind of like that. See, if I'm working, imagine if I'm working by myself, right? I'll not have built like this 7-figure business, right? And maybe I would have built a smaller business, but I would be working literally, all day long. Right now we have a 7-figure business. Yeah, I'm not making a huge amount of money if I would have been working by myself. But think I'm not doing anything right now. I'm 90%, I'm not involved into my day-to-day operations. I'm just working on things which I really want to work on, which is like growth, scale, and marketing side, and strategic partnership side. Things I really want to work on. We have 6-7 people I only deal with in our core leadership team, who is overseeing our entire team, right? So I guess it has its own pros and cons, where I would choose, scaling, but in a more streamlined way. And I understand that pain. That's the reason, I would say there is a way, there are frameworks to be followed when you want to scale and free up your time.
How often are you meeting with your team? Are you meeting with the whole team all the time? Are you meeting with just your 6 or 7 leaders? How often are you meeting with your management team?
We do one meeting a month where we look at the data and we just go through everything. And other than that, once a week individually, just to see how things are going on. If they have any questions, if they need my help, they need my attention on some specific thing. But it is not something, it happens day to day. So I kind of hardly spend couple of hours hardly meeting people in entire week.
So about once a week, you're meeting with your leadership team. That's the same for my agency. Once a week, we have a meetup. Although I've considered maybe increasing that to almost like a daily 5-minute huddle or something. Say, hey, status.
Yeah.
Anyway, interesting point. So here's where I really am interested in, Manish. We're in a very disruptive time in human history. AI has changed everything. Just as an example, as someone who manages podcasts, it used to cost me about $100 for a blog article.
Yes.
AI has not only decreased that cost tremendously, but it's empowered people to be much more effective. I used to really struggle with finding good writers.
Well,
struggle. Now you can turn it. Yeah, you get it, right? You get it. Not because people are bad writers, but if your natural language is, I don't know. If your natural language is not English, it's very difficult to type in English. But sure. AI has made it very easy. It's brought level 2 writers to level 7.
Yeah.
But here's the problem. All those people that have worked so hard to become great writers, now they have to compete not just with all the other level 7s. They got to compete with the 6s, the 5s, the 4s. They got to compete with everybody. So here's the question. You've got 180 team members right now. When are you going to fire everyone and just use robots to do it all?
No, that's a great point. A great question. And we are absolutely in an interesting era. So first, I love AI. I love ChatGPT. No doubt on that. I think, we have to think like that. We do not have any other option than to embrace the change, right? We have to live with AI. There is no other way. Now we just have to, we just need to be optimistic about that. And I'm absolutely optimistic about AI. 2 months back, I had a meeting with our entire team and we decided that, we are going to be a first AI-enabled white label agents, okay? Which means that I just told one thing to team that, okay, you know what, AI is not going to replace you. The person using AI will. So essentially, you have to start making use of AI tools in your day-to-day job to increase your efficiency. And I would recommend everyone that, okay, we need to think like AI as a blessing, where now you have an option to automate and, make use of tools to get the boring things done. Imagine the amount of, tasks you are doing on a recurrent basis, on a daily basis. Just get those things done by, AI tools, and now you have all time to focus on all the creative stuff. I mean, we do a lot of custom dev work and a lot of strategic work. So absolutely, like I said, I'm a very optimistic person. So I did not say that, okay, we might not meet this many people a year down the road. I'm like, okay, we might be able to increase the efficiency significantly, that, okay, if we need like 100 people, we might not need 100 people. We'll need only 50% down the road, right? Even a year from now. So I think digital agency is the space which is going to be the most impacted by AI first. Now,
which one? Which space?
Digital agency.
Yeah.
So agency,
Agreed.
because, we are into all these services, right? So you are saying writing, but even like, coding, our developers are using it so much effectively. I mean, our developers increased their efficiency last month by an hour every day. We have 180 people. So we literally served like 180 hours per day, which is literally we served like 2,000 hours the last month itself, right? Making use of AI. So still, we cannot increase the efficiency like by 50% or 100% because we, like I said, we do a lot of custom dev work. But I think, for an agency, this is my advice. As an agency owner, you have a really good opportunity to now is the time to sell your strategic and consulting services, right? So specifically, if you are targeting a specific niche, you really have an opportunity. Let's say if your client is coming to you and say, okay, I need a digital strategy, or I need to revamp my digital strategy, create a blueprint. That's not going to happen through AI tools, because that's where you have an, opportunity where you leverage your experience. For example, let's say you are targeting a roofing contractors or, home builders as your niche, then you know that industry in and out. Help them put together the strategy, how their digital strategy should be, right? And then obviously, comes to the production. Obviously, they will need that, and you can, use your team to do all the production. But as an agency owner, this is the time. The digital strategy has to be, in your service offering, and you should charge for that, absolutely. And that becomes your, it's kind of like, foot in the door, right? Where your customers are getting into your agency. But if you say, okay, we build websites, so we write copy, we do SEO, it's going to be a difficult time. That doesn't mean that, AI tool will be able to do everything by itself. But yeah, you have to have a service which cannot be, done using AI tools. And absolutely, you will be still able to grow consistently and stay relevant in the game.
Yeah, so there's some of the things that you said here, Manish, that I agree with. But one of the points that makes me a little bit nervous, because I agree, you have to differentiate yourself. You can't commoditize your work. And I do agree that focusing more on this is the strategy, this is the consulting, this is the business plan that you get with us, I get that. The problem here, though, is that AI can do that too. It's like AI just went to every university in perpetuity. It's learning all the time. I'll give you an example. You talk about web design. How long did it take you to learn how to design websites? Probably years.
Yeah.
Right. I use ChatGPT. So I run a pro group, and one of the members of the pro group in 1 hour showed all the members of the group how to scrape all the text from your website, how to explain to ChatGPT what your business is. It recommended 6 different types of website formats. And it said, based on your business, this is the format we recommend. It gave us H1 headers, H2 headers. It gave us potential keywords. It gave us all that stuff in like 10 minutes. And so when I'm looking at this, I'm like, holy crap. Yeah. Why would I ever pay a web designer $5-10 grand to design a website when I can do it myself, when I can teach myself, it's so, and that's, you also see here in the States, the writers unions are going on strike because they're getting replaced. And what's interesting to me about the AI revolution is that previous revolutions have replaced kind of like, I don't want to say the bottom, but the very basic blue collar style jobs, you know?
Yeah.
But what's interesting about AI is it's actually replacing AI. It's replacing the white collar jobs. I don't need a team of 10 writers. I need a team of 1 or 2 writers that are using the tools to create jokes or create stories and articles. So I think it's a really interesting time to be cognizant, to be aware, and to start to shift. I think that's really good. I'm actually curious, Manish. That's just my quick thought. When you're onboarding new team members, are you asking them about their AI proficiencies before you hire them?
Yeah. So I think I would like to share my thoughts about this. You speak like let's talk about the writers, right? For writers, this is my advice, or this is what I told our writing team as well, that with AI, now you need to know that, okay, first think like that's a blessing. That, okay, at least you don't have to, work on the boring things. Like you had to make edits, any paragraphs or any articles written by someone else. Someone did a proposal, you are doing editing to make them look better. At least you don't have to do all that thing. Now, with ChatGPT, you really want to see that, okay, when you want to stay still relevant, and this is the time, only the creative people will be able to really survive, right? So now is the time with ChatGPT, you know exactly what not to write, right? So this is how I look at ChatGPT for writers. That, okay, I'm going to write, I have the capability to write something creative and personalized touch, right? It has a personalized touch based on my research, my understanding, and putting that kind of citations and everything. So there is a way, still writers are relevant. Writers can be relevant, right? But now it's not something it's going to be 100% going to replace. Yes, it will replace the writers who are absolutely not creative. They cannot think creatively. They don't know how to play with words and everything, right? So yes, but it has impacted for sure. Even like we have seen that change, but it's kind of like that you have to be unique, right? That
yes.
What's your unique, USP? We call it like, every business has USP. Think like writers also have to have the USP to stay relevant, right? I think, coming back to your question about, your thing about like everything AI can do. Yes, it is possible, right? I think one of the most important thing AI is missing and will miss is more of a personalized thing, right? It will take time, but right now you will have to feed a lot of data to AI to give you a kind of like personalized recommendation, right? It is not going to be absolutely 100% accurate, right? So that's where we have an opportunity for a creative people to put together a personalized recommendation, personalized strategy, which is very hard, right? For you and for AI to do it, because AI is just reading the pattern, right? And making decisions based on that, putting together all the data and everything. So I think there is a great opportunity still on a strategic side, more in a creative part, right? We know all this, we are seeing Mid-Journey created images, and, there are a lot of like illustrations are coming out of AI tools as well. Those are great, right? But still, like, the creative part, the creative thinking will still going to be relevant. And I guess to answer your question about hiring new people, not AI proficiency, but we just look at their traits. Are they curious enough, right? Do they have like logical, creative thinking? What's the unique perspective, unique value you are going to bring, right? Those are the things I'm going to ask. So I think the traits, how much curious you are, how much like, accountable, responsible you are, and how much open are you related to your job? How quickly can you adopt the change? And how can you make use of AI to make your job even better, to make your job efficient, to deliver more efficient output? So those are the things that are going to be very important when you hire any people.
Yep. Now's the time. It's not tomorrow. It's today. Start.
Yes.
If I could leave, I tell this to everybody I meet. If there's one piece of advice I give you, it's take 15 minutes a day and use ChatGPT for 15 minutes a day to ask it some of your problems. You'll be shocked. You'll be shocked if you've not already. Manish, thanks for being on the show here today. Tell us, where's the best place for us to find you?
So, I had an E2M. So E2M is the best website to learn more about, me and our company and what we do. So it's like our website is e2msolutions.com. That's the best place to find.
e2msolutions.com. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dogs and cats? I'm going to put a link right there. There's a link right there in the description. That'll make it super easy for you. So click the link, check out what Manish is doing, and appreciate you coming on the show to share your wisdom on building a massive team.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for